coming up this weekend, Saturday night, 7 o'clock on tshf.net. It's the 2-hour televised special event, the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame Class of 2021 special, presented by the Tennessee Titans. They're going to celebrate all the great teams and athletes of the year in the state of Tennessee, and of course introduce us to the class of 2021 to be inducted into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. We're joined tonight by the Executive Director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, Brad Willis. Brad, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time tonight, and congratulations. You've been on the job for a little over a year now, and you finally really get to have a big event with this. We've all been struggling through COVID, but you finally get to pull one off Saturday night.
Yeah, we're excited. And Steve, thanks for having me on. You know, you said it, this class of 2021 is stacked from top to bottom. Not just the inductees, but our honorees, our Tennessean of the Year, Derrick Henry, kind of headlines that class. And we're really excited to be able to put together this special that, as you mentioned, will be able to be seen at tshf.net, but also right here on NewsChannel 5+. And so we're excited that Saturday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to, for all intents and purposes, officially induct this class of 2021, and we couldn't be more happy to put this class together.
Yeah, that's right. We will be live with you right here on NewsChannel 5+, 7 o'clock on Saturday night for the show. And you mentioned the big headliner, Derrick Henry. I guess it's no surprise when you win back-to-back rushing championships and you become the first running back or the 8th running back ever and the first in a long time to cross the 2,000-yard plateau, that you might win a big award like this. Pretty easy decision to go with number 22 for Tennessean of the Year, Brad?
It was, in the sense that, you know, when you look at what Derrick did on the field and what he accomplished in the community with COVID and the tornado relief and all those kinds of things, he was very, very easy to look at as someone who really kind of set himself apart. You know, the only downside is that you also look at a situation, you say, well, he could also be Pro Athlete of the Year. And so when he became Tennessean of the Year, we decided to kind of look at that category in a different direction, and we ended up going with Ja Morant as the Pro Athlete of the Year, because he got some significant talk last year before he was named Rookie of the Year. But going back to Derrick Henry, you know, only the 8th player, as you mentioned, to rush for 2,000 yards, lead the league in rushing back-to-back seasons. He's just been a workhorse. He's put the Titans on his back. And he's a guy that the entire time that he's been in Nashville, he's just become more and more, involved and active in the community, and we felt like that was to be rewarded, and so we're excited that he's our Tennessean of the Year.
And how important is that award, Brad, for the fact that it isn't just about the on-field accomplishments, but also the impact that these people, and it's a long list of legendary names who've won it before Derrick Henry, the impact they've had on their community and on this state?
You know, outside of being inducted, you know, as part of a class, Tennessean of the Year is really the highest honor that we bestow. And when you look back, you know, last year we honored Dolly Parton, and you know, a lot of times people see, you know, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame and, you know, honoring Dolly Parton, that raised some eyebrows. But the fact is that the Tennessean of the Year award has been given to all manner of folks and industries and, you know, teams that have really made a difference in our community, in our entire state. And when you look at, you know, last year and Dolly and what she was doing with the Imagination Library and all the different things, you know, the wildfire relief in Gatlinburg, you know, when you look at a situation like Derrick, who's active in his sport right now, and see what he's doing on the field, and then combine that with what he's doing in the community, you know, it's like you said, in a lot of ways it was a real no-brainer.
As you mentioned, Ja Morant of the Grizzlies, the male professional athlete of the year. Alicia Clark of the Seattle Storm, the female professional athlete of the year. And then you have this class of 11, the 2021 inductees into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, especially given the trying circumstances of 2020 that you and everybody else had to go through during that year, Brad. How did you come to the selection of these 11 for this class?
It's a great question, and we go through a really in-depth process. You know, we have an 18-member board that's comprised of athletics directors and business leaders and former athletes all across the state. And, you know, their job is to really take our list of initial nominees and narrow those down. I'll give you an example. In East Tennessee, we had 48 candidates for consideration that section of the board had to narrow down to 7 candidates. So it's not an easy job, and certainly there are a lot of very deserving individuals that ultimately got left off in a simple numbers game. But when we narrowed that down, each division is able to send forth 2 nominees and then 5 more nominees that are considered at-large candidates. And so, we come to the table with 6, automatic candidates and then 15 more that we need to narrow down to 5. And so we go through that process, early in the year. We did it in early February this year. And then we kind of rolled out the process of starting to tell them of their inclusion. And that really, for me, is the best part, because, you're delivering great news to someone who, has oftentimes moved on to the next phase of their life. They've had kids and their family, and they talk about the things that mom or dad accomplished, but a lot of the kids and the grandkids never got to see it. And so for a lot of them, this is a great opportunity to kind of, relive that part of their life. And so when you talk about the 11 that we have going in, and not to read a list, but Bill Bates from the University of Tennessee, Kathy Bender from Vanderbilt, Mike Caldwell, MTSU, Cindy Parlow-Cohn, who grew up in Germantown, went to North Carolina, was on the Women's World Cup team, and is now the president of U.S. Soccer. Guys like Todd Helton, Mary Lou Johns, who was the basketball coach at Memphis State at the time, Reggie Johnson from the University of Tennessee, the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, who has been involved with the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame over the last 20 years, and our board saw it fit to honor him for that. General manager of the Nashville Predators, David Poyle, Brandon Rowland, who's a fantastic story out of Jackson, Tennessee, a double amputee who lost both of his legs below the knee at 6 years old and went on to become a wheelchair basketball champion. And then Tommy Woods, who was the first African-American player at East Tennessee State. We feel like we have a group that really represents the entire state and a lot of great different sports. So to be able to start to tell a lot of these folks that they had been included in this class, and now we're working up to the televised program that's, for all intents and purposes, going to induct them. It's been an exciting run, and we're kind of excited to kind of see it all come together.
Brad, it's an incredible class, and as you mentioned, a lot of them have incredible stories beyond just the stat sheet or the numbers. The stories behind them are terrific. You're going to tell them on the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame Class of 2021 special coming up this Saturday night. Again, you can watch it right here on News Channel 5 Plus. But normally this ceremony is done in person and everybody's kind of together and it's a big celebration over dinner and all that. How will this special be different and help you tell these stories and induct these people into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame?
It's a great question. So you're right. Typically, we're able to have a banquet, and I think had we waited until probably March or April, we might have had a better feel for how some of the restrictions were going to start easing. Our board made the decision back in January to take this approach to make sure that we got to honor this group and do it in a way that we felt like we could kind of throw our entire effort behind. And so what you're going to see on Saturday night is really a made-for-TV special. It's not going to be a camera feed of an actual banquet. This is going to be us giving you, biographical videos of our inductees, interviews with our inductees. You're going to hear from all 11 of the inductees at some point during the night. We're going to talk to Derrick Henry as our Tennessean of the Year. We're going to talk to Alicia Clark as our Female Athlete of the Year. And you're going to learn a little bit about everything. One honor that we gave this year that is unique and really given only under extraordinary circumstances is the Delta Dental of Tennessee presents. And this year we're giving that award to the Nashville Six, the police officers that went door to door on Christmas Day, warning of the impending explosion that was going to go off on 2nd Avenue. They all joined us within the hall. And so not only were we able to present them an award, we were able to kind of give them a tour around the hall, get to know them a little bit. It's a great group of people, and we're really excited on Saturday night, right off the top, that we're going to honor the Nashville Six. And so our hope now is, it's now that we've kind of taken this approach, and you talk about what a banquet would look like, and the recommendations changing and events coming back, is we're looking to try to maybe pull something off in the fall of this year. Find a weekend that makes sense for most football fans and try to put something together where we can get as many of these folks together and celebrate them in a way. And two, bring in our class of 2020, because unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we were never able to honor them in the way that we wanted to. So when we're able to pull it off, we're going to have ourselves a huge party. And it's going to be a great group of two classes that are super deserving, and a lot of them really excited to get the chance to meet their fellow inductees and just kind of celebrate not just their accomplishments, Steve, but their supporters, because that's such a huge part of it.
Well, this town loves to party, so we'll all be ready whenever you're set to pull that one off, Brad. You mentioned one of the great parts of your job is once you have the list and you go through the process of narrowing down that field that you talked about and getting the selections, you get to surprise them. You get to inform them that they're going into the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. This year you had to be very creative because of everything that was going on. Is there a moment or an individual that really stood out to you that you got to surprise this year?
Yeah, and they were all a lot of fun, and I felt really bad for deceiving a lot of people because I got quite skilled at just lying straight to people's faces there for a while. But I'll tell you a great story. Reggie Johnson, former basketball player at the University of Tennessee, he came in right at the end of the Ernie and Bernie show, and went on to be drafted by the San Antonio Spurs. I reached out to his daughter. She organized a Zoom. We did most of these over Zoom connections because of everything that was going on. But his son, Reggie Jr., had just been promoted to captain in the Air Force, and they were looking for a reason to get together. And so his daughter, his son, Reggie Jr., Reggie and his wife are all on a Zoom call. They bring me in. He is clearly under the understanding that they're all getting together to support Reggie Jr. And the first thing I said was, first of all, congratulations to Reggie Jr. and to thank him for his service, because being named captain in the Air Force is a fantastic accomplishment. And I knew that Dad wouldn't want to undercut that in any way. But Reggie Jr. was in on it, and he wanted to celebrate Dad. And so it was a great moment to be able to kind of surprise him, pull the rug out from under him a little bit, and let him know that that night was just as much about him as it was his son.
That's awesome. And I saw several of them, all of them, take an awesome turn at some point, and truly special moment for each of these 11 inductees. And I got to ask, does Mike Keith get any special commendation, because you've got him involved in the broadcast coming up on Saturday night as well? Did he get anything extra for going in this year?
I went to Mike first thing after our board. Well, after I surprised him, I told him, I said, our board decided this, and I was very excited for you. But the first thing I thought was, oh no, I don't have a host for my television show now, because Mike's fantastic, and Mike's been, a part of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, as I mentioned, for the last 20 years. He's hosted the banquet. He's hosted the television show over the last couple of years. I went to him. I said, I'm happy to get another host. I would love to have you host it, but I'm not going to ask you to host the show where you're going in. And he said, you know what? If it were a banquet and I would have to stand on the dais and not be with my family, it would be a different thing. I would love to host. We'll figure out a way to do it. So what we do is you'll notice in segment one, there's clearly an elephant in the room, and we want to make sure that we take care of Mike right off the bat, because Mike's there for the rest of the show interviewing a lot of great inductees, and we wanted to make sure to give him his proper honor before the rest of the show. So I hope that when people watch it, they feel like that Mike got his just due, because we're really excited that he's part of it. I feel like he's done so much, not just for our organization, but for sports within the state, from his time in Knoxville to his time with the Titans over the last nearly 25 years. So we're really excited that he's a part of it. And we give him his just due pretty close to the top of the show.
Well, he's the bot. I mean, everybody around here loves Mike Keith and what he does and what he means to this community, for sure. And Brad Willis, Executive Director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, with us. Brad, I would be remiss. We are coming through this. It seems like the pandemic is pretty much ending, knock on wood, somewhere around here. What is the status of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame? Are you open? Can people come out and just walk in the doors and see all the cool exhibits and make a day of it again?
We are, and we're very excited about that fact. We are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. A lot of people ask where we're located. We're right there at Bridgestone Arena. So if you come down to the corner of 5th and Broadway, that's where you're going to find us. You can enter through the Nashville Visitor Center and come take the tour. Matter of fact, right now, admission is free. We've partnered with the Nashville Sports Council to make admission free all the way through September. So we're really appreciative to the Nashville Sports Council and everything that they do for sports, in Nashville, but also for partnering up and making the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame free to tour. So we get all kinds of people. I was talking to folks today from Dallas, folks in town from New Jersey, just making an afternoon of checking out Nashville and learning a little bit about history of sports in our state. I guarantee you, wherever you're from, you're going to find someone in the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame that represents somewhere close to where you are, because not only are we we nominate and induct people that are from this state, but we nominate and induct people that played in this state that are from other places that maybe were born here, that someone like Bill Bates, who born in Knoxville, went to Farragut High School, went to the University of Tennessee, and played in the NFL for the Dallas Cowboys. So the people from Dallas today were able to learn a little bit about Bill Bates. And so we encourage people to come check it out. Really excited that the Nashville Sports Council has sponsored to make attendance free for the next little bit. And we welcome folks, tell them to come down and check it out, because we're there and excited to have them.
You hit on it, Brad. One of my favorite things about it is the fact that this state is so rich in history and tradition in sports, but it's so varied. You have the professional element now, which is somewhat new. You've got obviously rich history in college athletics, from Tennessee to Vanderbilt, Memphis State, Middle Tennessee, and other schools that have done terrific things. And a lot of other high school athletes, Olympians, great coaches, those sort of things. It is a very unique state in how it touches so many different levels, and you guys capture it so perfectly there at the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, I think.
Well, you're nice to say that. And when I go around and talk to different groups, one of the things that you realize really quickly is that not only did these individuals make a huge impact in the world of sports, but when you go into the communities where they're from, they're cultural icons. They're the people that are inspiring younger generations that can achieve whatever they want, because they can see someone that grew up, that went to their high school, that grew up in their hometown, that made it, or that gave back in a certain way. And so those are the stories that kind of live on forever. When you go to Columbia and you talk to folks about Sterling Marlin and Lindsey Nelson and all those kinds of things, those are the individuals who are super entwined in those communities. And the part that we're telling is frankly a very small part of their entire history. And so we're just happy to be able to tell a part of that history and really what I think is a huge fabric of kind of what we are in the state of Tennessee, because I think that we all generally find sports to be something that bonds us together and that we find important. And so honoring these individuals, I think, is worthy, and they're certainly the individuals that we have going in, not just in the class of 2021, but the other 501 inductees over the last 55 years are all deserving to have their names put within that hall.
Well, the museum's awesome. Free admission for the rest of the summer is really awesome. But I got to ask you before you go, Brad, for those people out there who want to support the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame and your mission, how can they help you in that mission?
Well, I appreciate you asking, because we are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We are completely funded by fundraising, donations, individuals, organizations that really kind of want to get behind what we're doing. As I mentioned, we're about preserving the heritage of sports in our state. We're also about trying to reach, youth and teach them the values of what sports can mean, leadership, accountability, all the things that sports, individual and team sports, teach you that you go on throughout your life, and when you end up in your career, you look back on at those things. We want to pass those along to youth, so people can check out our website, which is tshf.net. You can make a donation there. You can find out more. You can come visit. You can make a donation at the hall. We have a Venmo account, which is at TN-Sports. So there's lots of ways to donate. You can come volunteer your time. Just check us out on our website, tshf.net. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and just find a way that you can get involved, because we'd love to have you and we'd love to have your support.
The museum is fantastic. So is the 11-person class of the 2021 inductees to the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame. And make sure you check out the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame class of 2021 special presented by the Tennessee Titans this Saturday night, 7 o'clock. You can watch it right here on NewsChannel 5+. It's also available on our NewsChannel 5 app, Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV. Brad Willis, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations on putting all this together. I know it was a lot of work to get there, but it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the show on Saturday night. We can't wait here on NewsChannel 5+.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you having me.
All right, that's Brad Willis, the executive director at the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, one of the real gems in this city for people to go out and celebrate the great heritage and tradition of sports, not just in Nashville, but around the entire state of Tennessee. We'll take a break. We will come back. We'll get back into Tennessee baseball discussion and that difficult loss at the College World Series this afternoon. When we come back, this is SportsLine on NewsChannel 5+.